Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all so much for tuning in to the May edition of the CUNY BMI Dialogues. This month, we have a fantastic panel. It'll be an actual dialogue, two people speaking about their expertise and their insights. This month's dialogue is the business and message in our music. I will leave you with our moderator today, Mr. Wayne Edwards, who will introduce himself, and Mr. Ray Chu, who will speak to you about the business, but also the important message that's in our music. Take it away, Mr. Edwards.
Thank you, Jorge. Yeah, so my name is Wayne Edwards. I want to thank CUNY BMI for asking me to moderate today's panel. It's a great privilege to do that. I do teach a music class and other media classes, and I'm the chair of the American Studies Department at SUNY Old Westbury, which is on Long Island. And for those of you who may say, well, why is a SUNY guy at a CUNY event? Well, because I'm a CUNY child. So I've got my bachelor's degree from Hunter College, and I went to CUNY Grad Center for my doctorate, and I've taught at Hunter, and I taught at John Jay College of Criminal Justice. So I'm a child of CUNY. So I feel privileged to be here. More so than that, I feel privileged to moderate this May 2022 CUNY BMI Dialogue because we have an amazing guest today, Mr. Ray Chu, who I will formally introduce in a minute. But first, let me tell you a little bit about the CUNY Black Male Initiative, which was established 16 years ago with support from the New York City Council and then Chancellor Matthew Goldstein. Since its inception, the CUNY Black Male Initiative has worked to create systems of support to improve academic and career outcomes for Black and Latino men. Through our 6 pillars, academic enhancement, culturally competent peer-to-peer mentoring, socio-emotional programming, diversity recruitment, institutional commitment, and number 6, advisory committee, the 33 campus-funded programs work to give wraparound services to create places of belonging that cultivate success. The CUNY BMI campus programs support pre-college students, formerly and presently incarcerated students looking to complete their high school equivalency, as well as undergraduate, graduate students, excuse me, at all CUNY campuses, including the CUNY School of Law, Sophie Davis Biomedical Education Program, also known as the CUNY School of Medicine, and the newly added projects at the School of Professional Studies and the School of Urban and Labor Studies. Okay, so this is the place to be, and we have the man that you want to hear from. So let me introduce today's guest, Mr. Ray Chu. And I'll just put it this way. If you've watched I Can See Your Voice, if you've watched Dancing with the Stars, Showtime at the Apollo, the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, BET Awards, the NAACP Image Awards, and so many other shows, you've likely heard the music of multi-talented musician and entrepreneur Ray Chu. Ray is a man of vision and purpose, as demonstrated by his Power to Inspire Foundation, which speaks to his commitment to philanthropy. He's also half of an industry powerhouse couple. Ray and his equally successful wife, Vivian Scott Chu, are founding partners in Chu Entertainment, a premier event production firm. I could go on, but would rather much let the man of the hour speak for himself. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my privilege to introduce you to Mr. Ray Chu.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you very much. And I like to also say that on behalf of my wife and my business partner, she holds and uplifts our foundation, and she really had to deal with some business concerns today. So that's why she's not here. But as we talk about purpose and intention, she's really the powerhouse of our foundation, and that's what she's doing today. So I'll be the voice of many things today, and we'll keep working, keep it moving.
Okay, well, thank you, Ray, for being with us, and please give our regards to Vivian. So you know what, before we start this conversation that I'm sure will be exciting and informative, I heard something about you that I didn't know. So I said, well, let me just check. Are you a Bronx guy?
Yeah, well,
All
I'm
right.
I started life in Harlem, and at age 7 we moved up to the Bronx, to the Northeast Bronx. So and then a lot of my formative years are in both, because my family roots are all in Harlem. You know, the grandparents, all uncles, everybody. You know, my family migrated from North Carolina and on my father's side from Virginia and China. My paternal grandfather is Chinese, but everybody, they all migrated into Harlem, and then we started out the grant projects, and then we moved up at my age 7 to the Northeast Bronx. So yeah, it's both experiences.
Okay, great. So we actually we were neighbors and didn't know it, because I also lived in the North Bronx for a while. So you know what? So maybe that's a great place to start, because you know the media paints this picture of the Bronx that is so skewed to the negative. And if you know anything about the Bronx, it's like any other place. There's decent sections and there's some not so decent sections. But for those of us who sort of are stuck with that media image, can you tell us a little bit about how you went from a Bronx guy to now renowned on the world stage?
Well, first of all, it's my parents and my community. We've had a community that helped raise me. And my mother was a social worker. My mother was an innovative woman. My mother was somebody who was dedicated to making a difference. And she instilled that into me and my sister. And we were citizens of the world at a very young age. We were citizens of our community. We were citizens of trying to, of purposeful living. And she instilled that in us, and she would take us to many things, starting with during the 60s. She would take us on the marches at, you know, Columbia University and all over these places when they're, you know, when all these, you know, social changes were, you know, really, really not only just happening, but exploding. She wanted us to be there. She also took us into the community. She worked with gangs. She worked all over the place. While working 2 jobs, she also empowered us to go into to really pursue our arts thing, you know, and so we were in art study every day, and on the weekends too. And we would travel by ourselves. We have 2 young kids, get on the train and go to our lessons. But it wasn't just arts. She wanted to give us a sense of the world. She had us in French lessons. She had us in cooking class. My mother, she just, you know, and then my father, he was a musician as well. He played piano, and he and I would jam and play together. He gave me a sense of, you know, what, as I was studying Euro and Asian classical music, but he said we had jazz in our house, you know, and that was his thing. He was a child of bebop, and Miles Davis and Dizzy and Thelonious Monk. Those were his heroes, and I got a full diet of that while growing up, listening to James Brown, Aretha Franklin, and Marvin Gaye, and all the Motown stuff. So I had a full diet of things to really help enrich my plate.
And then how did you get started? How did you go from appreciating music and like you say, jamming in the house with your dad to taking that outside of the house and pursuing a career in music?
Well, all my teachers and mentors were in, you know, they were professionals that were operating in the field. So they weren't just in the classroom, they were in the field, and they would take me to all their professional gigs. Warren Smith, who was responsible for, you know, a great deal of my formal education, he would He was working on Broadway. He was working in the studios as a percussionist, and he would take me on his jobs with him, sit me right down while he was, doing a TV show, while he was in Broadway, take me in the pit with him. Merle Saunders, who was my adopted uncle, and he's family to me. Merle Saunders was my father's my father's Air Force buddy, and Merle Saunders was a Bay Area organist, but came to New York, and he started, working with Miles and Lionel Hampton and other people. He would bring me on the bus with Lionel Hampton. He would take me to, this little kid who's at age 8, 9, 10, 11, sit me in a club that I wasn't supposed to be in, and have me, I'd be in there all night and have me sitting in with arguing with him. So I had so many experiences that prepared me for professional life because I saw what it was like firsthand at an early age.
So you mentioned some obviously legendary names in there. So I'm curious though, now, do you see any differences in the ways younger and older folks listen to and process music these days?
I see it as, yes, of course. It's more of history repeating itself. My father would tell me about when he was a young kid, and him and his young buddies were all, beboppers. They would bebop, and they were sort of seen as the radical kids. Dizzy Gillespie was a radical, young radical musician, and the kids walking around in zoot suits and all that. And so the cultural shift has always been there. And then you have the older guys, he would look down their nose at him, or, oh, what are you kids doing, And so you have the same thing repeating itself. That I remember, there's a very specific date that hip hop was born, very specific, and it's such a seismic change to not only music, but our whole society has been changed and enriched by hip hop. But I remember in the 80s when it was born that some of the old people, and even some people in my generation, was like, oh, don't worry, just be still, it'll go away. It's just another fad. Right. Okay. So that was just proven. It didn't go away, and it's not a fad, and it's for real, and it's changed not only music or broadened music, but also cultures. It's enriched the culture. It's changed financial institutions. They have, textiles have broadened. They have gone from what they thought was just a few little cute t-shirts and hoodies and stuff like that, to a multi-billion-dollar business that is powered by the hip hop culture. So not only has it changed music, it's changed business as well, and it's changed many things. So that is in answer to your question. Yes, the generational views of things have always been by some of those who have been the established community, looking at the younger generation and wanting to keep the status quo sometimes. Those who are not able to adapt, to change, then they're relegated to grasping and holding on to history as their present. There's people who live in a historical presence, and that, oh yeah, good old days. Yeah, this is no. You kids don't know nothing about music, and blah blah blah. And yeah, and that's their present. But the fact is that everything evolves, and here we are now in 2022, experiencing new things.
Okay, fantastic. Well, you mentioned business, and we're going to circle back to business and economics in a minute. But you know what I wanted to ask you, because I don't want to lose this point. I started in my introduction of you to say, you know, if you've watched all of these fantastic shows, I Can See Your Voice, Dance with the Stars, Showtime at the Apollo, so on and so on, that you've probably heard the music of Ray Chu. Can you explain to our audience what your role is on these shows? Because you're kind of behind the scenes on these shows, but you're making it happen. Well, what is your role?
My role is several. As a music director and a musician, my role is to deliver the music product and be responsible for it on television and live and any other kind of venue that I'll be in. But that role is also that I have to be responsible to the producers of the whatever entity that is. If it's a television entity, then there's a structure in the system that I have to deliver my music in. So it can't just be arbitrarily whatever I artistically may want to do. It has to work within the system. And on network TV, there are systems. All right, so you have a show like Dancing with the Stars or American Idol that I worked with, and I'll speak about American Idol. We had several different systems happening at the same time. The American Idol system was owned by a company called Fremantle, and then that was presented to, at the time it was Fox TV, and then he had another system, and we had about 8 to 10 different executive producers, and then we had I was brought on the show by Ron Fair and Jimmy Iovine, who were bringing in their product from Universal and Interscope Records, and so I was responsible for making sure my music was one, that it was I was carrying the mandate given to me by all, either sometimes at the same time or separately. So I had to wear many hats, and I had to travel many roads to get to that one episode that you saw each week. It's a fascinating job. Many times I have to be Switzerland in the many, sometimes there are wars and battles going on, and I have to find a way to do that while being an artist and while being that person that relates and deals with some of the, great legendary artists, and sometimes, there are young artists that need some nurturing. And so my experiences have been, this is a really great journey. I enjoy it so much, and I get to, to do music and still just play the piano.
Okay, and why Ray Chu? I mean, we know you're talented beyond belief, so it's not a question of talent. It's a question of all the people out here that could have maybe done this.
Yeah.
Why Ray Chu?
That's true. There's also many people who could be president, and you get them one at a time. You vote them in, and there's a criteria, and there's a ladder you got to climb, and there's a system to get you wherever you got to get. And I've worked my way through many systems, to earn the opportunity. And then once you earn opportunity, then there are going to be different people who actually select you. And so you have to certainly be eligible with the amount of skills and experiences necessary to be a music director on TV. So they're not grabbing kids straight out of Berkeley and assigning them a music director job on network TV, no matter how well skilled they are, and they can have a doctorate or whatever. That's not necessarily all that's required. What is required is that you have the right kinds of experiences and along your journey that makes you one that would be eligible to be selected in the eyes of the networks and the other people that have decided. Now, if they decide one day that they hey, we just want to, just some kids straight out of college, well, then that's the new criteria. So, but during my journey, it's been that what was needed at that moment was a Ray Chu. And then I said, hey, I raised my hand. Well, I'm gonna rate you. I can do that. And so I've always just been, by design is that I'm going to be the best rate you, and I'm not trying to be anybody else. I'll give you an example, and I'll speak of is the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. The Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade is over 100-year institution. Only interrupted slightly during World War II. Actually, it's 90 years old, 90-something years old. 92 years old, the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. And the broadcast of that is 50 years plus, with the invention of television. And so they have the tradition of doing that parade. That is the biggest parade, and that broadcast is seen in over 1 billion households, all right? And so all of America and all over the world, they see this parade as something that, hey, we get ready for our turkey, the whole thing, put that parade on. And it's just one of the things like Christmas and, all the things that you kind of come to know. And so my predecessor, his name was Milt DeLugg, was the music director and producer for that for 50 years. He did it for 50 years. And when he was ready to retire at age 93, I was brought in by producers Brad Lockman and Bill Bracken, who I'd worked with on some other TV entities, and they brought me and said, "Hey, listen, we have, we're looking to get a new music director for the show. Would you recommend somebody?" I was like, "Yeah, I recommend me." I said, "I'd love to do that." They said, "Okay, well then, Milt he's gonna retire next year. Why don't you come in and meet him?" I came in and met him, and wonderful, affable guy, 93 years old. We should all be blessed to work at age 93 doing things that we love, right? And he showed me the system of how they do what they do. And then he basically handed the baton over to me, and I've been doing that for the last 8, going on 9 years, the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. And so I would say, that it just in answer to some of your questions about, how do I get there? Well, I was brought in. Now, once I got there, they've empowered me to put my imprint on it. Yes, there was some people who, just like you said, "Hey, who's this new guy? We like Milt DeLugg, And I said, by the way, and I usually don't comment back, but I said, I like Milt DeLugg too. Milt DeLugg has decided that at age 93, he's ready to retire. Oh, well, you can't fill his shoes. I said, I'm not here to fill his shoes. I brought my own shoes. All right. That's how I operate. All right. So, and then there began my journey with that.
Well, that's fantastic. Let's build on that a bit, because let's say you're speaking with a group of young folks, and I know you do a lot of mentoring, which is so important, and we'll talk about that. Maybe we'll jump into that now. So what would you tell someone? There's a young man, young woman pursuing their dream, whether that's in music or something else. But what do you tell them? How, like you said, you had to climb the ladder. You also had the confidence, obviously, when you said, "Hey, I can do that." So what do you tell young folks who are saying, Mr. Chu, how do I get there?
Yeah, I think I'd say that a few things. You want to marry your talent and skills. So arm yourself with as much of that. And if that's through formal education, that's good. Sometimes you need the education on the street. Sometimes you need a combination of things. And then you marry that with your skills and talent. And then you look for opportunities to enter that into the field while continuing to develop. So I always see education as a continual thing. I continue to go back and study up and learn new things, new programs. Right now, it's about learning new plugins and spending time with them. I can buy a new plugin with the software with Pro Tools, and you need to put hours into that. They don't do it by themselves. They don't perform by themselves. You have to put some hours in education and learning those things. So there's a new brand of education that needs to happen with this new systems of music. And so it's not just sitting out learning notation. Yes, you got to learn that too. And learning, theory. Yes, you should learn that too. But you also got to learn the technical aspects. So I would say anybody entering into now is two things. Arm yourself with great education, continued education, believe in yourself and your dreams. And one more thing is that you set goals and goals, and you break them down into tasks, and you break them down into some things that are realistic types of manageable expectations. For instance, if you said, I want to be an astronaut, great. You want to be an astronaut? I'm talking to people right now. Or whatever it is you want to be. Well, what does it take to be an astronaut? Well, you can, you find out what that criteria is. A lot of the astronauts come in through different programs, come in through mathematicians, military, blah, blah, blah. Okay, great. Now, where are they at? Could I be an astronaut from, North Carolina? Not sure. I think the astronauts, this program is located either in Florida or, you can find out where that is. Okay, and that's your dream. Now you've really armed yourself with a lot of information. Now here's my final thing. Wherever your dream is, go to it. All right. If your dream is in Alaska and you want to be, somebody doing the Iditarod and the sled thing, well, you need to take your butt up to Alaska and stop wishing for it to happen while you in North Carolina. So if that's where your dream is, go to it. Don't wait. Now that I'm not saying don't be realistic about, trying to have support systems and all that, but you can't wait on that. It's not going to happen with you waiting on it. You must go and with purpose and intention and pursue it. Those are my words.
Okay, and I'm sure there are so many of our viewers right now who appreciate hearing that, and I hope they fully grasp what you're saying, that you have to go to it. You can't wait for it to come to you. All right. Now, speaking of going to it, you had another venture that I'd like you to speak about, because it's very important, where you were doing fundraising efforts to benefit out-of-work musicians affected by the pandemic, right? So how did you get to that point, and are you satisfied with the results?
Well, I never rest. I certainly never rest on my laurels. And so satisfied would mean momentary. That's a momentary thing. It's like a meal. You have a meal and it was a great meal, but that's yesterday. I got to eat today and tomorrow. So that was a short, man. I love that meal. It was great. I was satisfied then. And today I need a new meal. So you got to keep eating meals. You got to keep setting yourself up for the next thing. I got 2 years ago, it's already been 3 years, this whole pandemic business. Wow. We're in 22. I think this hit like 19. This is 2019. Is that correct? Well, when it first hit,
or 20.
I was in production with a TV show, and they came in, the producer came in and they shut the whole thing down. They said, listen, I was in Los Angeles. And in fact, it was the show, Fox show, I Can See Your Voice. And the producer said, well, we were trying to finish out our taping season, but we got to shut the whole thing down. Everybody, pack your stuff up. We'll send you an email. We don't know when we're going to go back up. So it was a very uncertain future. Now, I've been very fortunate that, I've been able to find a way to continue to be productive while things were shut down in some areas. However, here's what inspired me to do the action that I did. I took an action because I got a call from a friend who was in Europe right at that time.
Mhm.
And hearing about everything shutting down. And he was on a jazz tour that was culminating in Italy. And at that time, Italy closed its borders to people coming in and going out. And they weren't accepting people from that region when they started shutting down the air travel. So he was stuck. Now on the jazz budget, that jazz tour didn't pay him enough money to be, sitting in a hotel for, an undetermined length of time. So his money it ran out pretty quick and he couldn't get out. And I was like, wow. So, and then he said it wasn't just him. It was, a lot of other people on the tour. And I said, oh man, that is, so I had a personal experience to, it wasn't just, wow, hearing about guys out of work. It was somebody I knew and then some other people I knew. And then, so they would, personally affected. Now, like, again, I told you my mother was a social worker and she taught me each one touch another hand. That's how you make a change. You one at a time. You help this guy, you help that guy, he helps somebody else, you spread it like that. Don't sit back waiting for, some gigantic, big explosion of money to happen. No, you can help somebody one at a time. So that's what I did. We sent them a care package and, including some funds and blah, 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 and everything that, that we could help him survive. And then we kind of spread that. So what I did after that was I was like, well, let me see if I can broaden the effort by including Musicians Union and AFL-CIO, and we got some organizers involved. And I started to do a weekly series of performances with some of my friends, that would of music note and fame and notoriety and all this stuff and some legends. And so we raised some money and we raised a significant amount of money. And I wanted to make sure that it was responsibly being given because, you hear about people raising money and then you don't necessarily always know where the money goes. I will say that, with the portal that we worked with, all the money went directly through the union to then through their AFL-CIO, and it went directly to musicians in need. It was a weekly show that I did that we produced, and some of my guests were George Clinton, Marcus Miller, Chick Corea, and Dionne Warwick, and Kenny Lattimore, and Robin Thicke, and wow, we had some really great fun performing and making music. And Israel Houghton, wow, yeah. And so and some of those are still available on. You go to YouTube and you can find some of that stuff. But I was great. I was very happy to be able to do that and donate the money to musicians in need.
Terrific, terrific. So let me ask you though, now, I want to talk a little bit about your success in terms of it being, I'm going to use the word anonymous, and I don't mean that in a negative sense at all. I mean that in the sense that, that you're behind the scenes. I teach media studies. I have a lot of students who want to be, I want to be the news person on camera. I want, they want to be the celebrity. Can you speak to them about maybe the value of understanding the behind the scenes positions that they can get? And I don't mean specific positions, but you know what I'm saying, that there's value to being behind the scenes, a lot of value. Can you speak to that at all?
Yeah, I think that, if it's your desire to be performing out front and be the face of things, and and everybody in this world is doing like this, and you got a lot of that, and so people are really kind of having their faces out there and they want to be in the front, then that's fine. In the meantime, so that's one job, and for every one job you have somebody in front of the camera, you got about 30 or 40 and sometimes hundreds of people behind in support of. And so it was always my position. I always saw myself as that guy, leading the band and conducting and doing things in support of a performer. Now, I've also had opportunity to be out front myself and have some opportunities where I'm performing and I'm the face and the voice of that. Not a whole lot, and and I don't have an ego doesn't drive me to do things. What does drive me is that I love doing what I'm doing. So sometimes I'll be the performer, and I go out and do a series of shows, not only in New York but across the country, where I'm actually like a headliner, and sometimes I'm like even surprised. I'm like, wow, I just did a thing at the San Diego Symphony. I wouldn't say just there, but last year, and I sold the venue out. I was like, are you kidding me? Wow, 5,000 people came out to see me. I was like, hey, all right, let's go. And it was fun. And we're doing a few things coming up at the Dallas Symphony, and I do a summer series, and in Harlem Week and all kinds of things. But yeah, I mix it up. But in answer to your question, yes, there are, for every one job that you see somebody, there's about 30 or 40 immediately directly related to that.
Okay, and so what should aspiring talents, whether they want to be, let's say, in front of the camera, behind the camera, be on the face of the CD, well, no more CDs, but, be on the cover of whatever it is, right? And some who want to be behind the scenes. What do you think all of those folks should maybe take away from your extraordinary success?
And yeah, I would say that, you want to be able to see yourself as being multifaceted creatures with a goal that you set. So whatever that goal is, but don't think that they can only just be that. There are people that start off one place and end up another. Well, that's a journey. And so see your life as a journey, and not that there's that where you're at right now is where you're going to stay. There's many wonderful performers who started out teaching and wound up, getting in front and having these great careers. I worked when I was 16, I left high school to start working with Memoir. Now, I went on a whim because my buddy said, hey, they're auditioning. I was in the High School of Music and Art, LaGuardia High School of Music and Art. And my buddy said, hey, listen, they're having auditions for Memoir. I was a junior in high school at 16. And he said, just go down there. I was like, really? I said, okay. So I went down there, and I think I was the last one in. Everybody else had already played and stuff. And then they put the music up, and Melba Moore came over, and I played, and then I left. And then I, the guy said, hey, call me. He said, she really likes you. And, we want you to, go out on the road with us. I was like, I don't know if they know that I'm still in high school, but okay. They gave me this schedule that was like, it was like I was going to be out for months and stuff. I was like, wow. And so again, I went home and I spoke to my mother. And by the way, my music education was extensive, even up to that point. I had a scholarship, the Vladimir Hollywood Scholarship. They had a young Juilliard program when I was 6. And then I went to that. Then I went to the Harlem School of the Arts, when it first started. I went to 3rd Street Music School, Man's School, also Manhattan School of Music, prep division while I was in high school. So I had music study all and every day of my life. So at 16, I was armed with many skills. Not only was I studied pianist and, in classical and jazz and R&B and everything, I was also all city percussion. And I was in all city orchestra while I was in high school as a percussionist. And I could also doing gigs on the drums. So again, multifaceted. So it's right about then when I got that audition and they asked me, I said, okay, I'm gonna focus on piano. Like I said, I just went down there and read the music, and she said, hey, they really like it. So I went out and I started my professional career right there.
So how would you advise current students to evaluate opportunities like the one you just spoke about? Obviously you took a leap of faith. You just had the confidence and you went and said, okay, let me see where this takes me. How should young folks evaluate opportunities? If you had walked in and said, I'm not feeling this one, this sounds a little bogus or something, how would you have maybe approached it the same way? How do we take advantage of opportunities as they're presented?
Well, there's a formula that they say, preparation plus opportunity and equals success. I would add another one in there. Preparation plus opportunity plus access will give you an opportunity for success. So there's a few little hurdles in there. And so you got to, you have to, one is to know that you do have the skills and the necessary knowledge and information to succeed wherever you're going to go. When I went down to that audition, I was very confident. I thought, I could read the music, no problem. And I knew I could play the music because I said all my studies prepared me for that. So I was like, yeah, I've been in every professional situation as a student ready, and I was ready. So when I went to that audition, they put the music up and she played. She came over. I was like, bling, 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 and we went at it. I was ready. So if you're in answer to your question, make sure you're ready for your opportunity because you don't want to blow that opportunity. Had I not been ready, then it would have the situation would not have been what I wanted, and it could have been viewed as a failure. Which I never use that word because I think you build on things that may not quite go your way because you learn every time you do something. You learn from a situation that doesn't go right, and you've learned what not to do. If you stay a student. If not, then you repeat the same mistakes. So stay a student because anything that you do, if it doesn't go the way you want, and like I said, I never use the word failure. All right, there's nothing, that's not even in my vocabulary. What it is it's always an opportunity to learn something. So you never walk away with nothing. You always walk away with something.
So I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like you're saying, or I should ask, are you saying that we need to be fundamentally sound, but also willing to step outside of the box?
I like that. Exactly. You should be fundamentally sound. You're right. I think that, and then by the way, while I was out on the road, I still continued my education at Manhattan School of Music and others. And I still, found a way to, continue growing. And yes, having all the fundamentals and being fundamentally sound and broaden that up with experiences and information. It's all information, right? It's all about information, right? Everything you study is information. Everything you experience is information. You got to gather it. You got to, and utilize the capacity of your brain is huge. Like, the doctors say we use less than 50%. Well, we need to do more better than that. Let's go ahead and, arm ourselves with as much stuff as we can, then step on out and go for it.
Okay, so I want to flip the question a bit. Coming from the solid family background that you did, what would you tell our viewers, some of whom may already be parents, some who may hope to be parents one day? What should they put into their children's minds, bodies, and souls to help them become all they can be?
Yeah. Well, I would say that anybody that's a parent now, you love your child, but you've seen situations where, and you can look at situations where people have somebody in the family who's an addict or something, and some of the distinction conversation is you can love somebody to death. Right? You can love somebody, the wrong way and allow and enable them to do the wrong things. The opposite could also happen. You can love and nurture somebody and give them the kind of support and enable them to really grow and burgeon and do wonderful things. My parents did that for me. My mother loved me. And when I came home with that schedule at age 16, she said, she said, go. She said, go. My mother said, go. I left high school. She said, go. She said, you've been studying all your life. You're ready. Go. And she empowered me. And I would say that now that journey is not for everybody. But what is as a parent, you want to be able to say, hey, listen, let me kind of find a structured kind of environment and always let my child know that I love and care about them, and I will help uplift them and give them some course correction when necessary. And then you have to just deal with life as a person. If you're gonna step out, like I did at 16, I had to experience life. I had some hard knocks that were waiting for me, and nobody gets to escape that.
So is that why mentoring is so important to you? Because you do a lot of mentoring, which is so commendable. Is that why? Is that just sort of in you? Is that put in you by your mom and your dad and others?
Absolutely. That's, like I said, each one teach one hand touch the other, boots on the ground. We can gather all the metaphors and all the sayings you want. The fact is, we have a responsibility to help others. We have a responsibility to enrich the soil of which we stand, especially if you've been, you've had a measure of success, you've had, things that have wonderfully happened to you and your life had grown, Now, like I said, my mother, she, we didn't have lots of, matter of fact, we grew up, I guess on paper that would be poor. I never quite knew it, what the measure of poor was. Everybody in my community was about the same. So, and we were in the projects, so everybody in the projects was about the same. So, okay, we're all the same, but I tell you what, our home was always open to somebody else. We've had homeless people come and stay in our house. Somebody's, got kicked out of their home. They came and stayed with us, for 2 weeks, turned into 2 months. One of them turned into 2 years, until we had to disinvite them, But in any case, we knew that experience. I knew that experience of helping others and being open to do that. And so, yes, nurturing and mentoring is a natural flow for me. I get anytime I get encountered by somebody, I get a lot of young people come up to me and ask questions. I'll exchange, an email address, and we can talk, or I'll have a moment with them and kind of give them some encouragement or whatever is meant, what I can do.
So here's one of those maybe off the beaten path questions. I don't know, but so you and Vivian, very successful as individuals, very successful as business partners. How challenging is that to work with someone who's so close to you constantly? And how do you make that work? And how do you tell someone else who might say, yeah, I'm thinking of working with my significant other? What's the advice from Ray Chu?
Don't do it. I didn't say that. I'm kidding. I would say that, you have, listen, marriage by itself is wonderful and challenging all by itself. Now you go ahead and add the dynamic of, doing business with each other or adjacent to each other. That can be a lot. It just depends on how you get into it. You hear situations where somebody marries somebody and then all of a sudden they become their new manager or something, without any experience in the business. Yeah. So you've already seen that formula not work for a lot of singers, male and female. They'll marry somebody and then all of a sudden that's their new manager. Okay. Now, so in answer to your question about how it happened with me and Vivian, one is that she was already successful in her own right. She had, and she's always a proven entity, managing systems, vice president of Epic Records, Polygram, this, that, blah, blah, blah. Great, career, ASCAP, doing maverick things, winning Grammys, starting things. And she was already an entity in of herself. And I, with all my experiences, we just kind of recognized each other from, hey, I remember her. She was, and I was dating somebody else years ago, but I remember her. And then so we saw each other from afar. And then one day we started visiting a friend of ours who was sick. And then we said, and he was down in South Jersey. And so we said, I'll tell you what, let's kind of share a ride. After the second day, we would go down there every day or every other day. He said, why don't we share a ride? We rode down together. During the ride down together, we said, oh wow, got to know you a little bit better. And then a couple of times we started having dinner. And then, you do that 3 weeks in a row, now you're dating, oh yeah, I guess so. I guess that's the date. Okay. And so we started doing that, started growing. And then didn't take long because we already kind of knew each other, enough about each other, enough information. And then, we took the leap and said, hey, listen, let's get married. All right, let's get engaged, get married. That was after 6 months of dating. Now, she continued to work at Epic, and then she decided she was going to start her own business and her own thing. We had separate apartments at the time. Then we came together after we got married. We said, okay, you know what? I think we should, have a house together. Okay, that was a good idea. So we moved to Teaneck, New Jersey, and she started her own business while I continued doing what I was doing. I built a studio in the house, and we built an office for her. Now, we still weren't working together. She was doing what she was doing, and I was doing what I was doing. I'd be in the studio all night, she'd be in there, and we're both, I never used the word workaholic. You work as necessary as you need to work to get the things done. All right. And if that requires 3 in the morning, then it's 3 in the morning. You do what you got to do, So I'm in the studio 3 in the morning. She's in there with a pile of papers, 3 in the morning. And finally, I'm like, let's go. I think it's time to go to bed. We go upstairs. All right. And you multiply that. Then one day, she gets a call for somebody saying, hey, can you do this? Can you put together this thing? She says, and do you know a guy? She says, yeah, I know a guy. He's right in the next room, She says, hey, Ray, can you do this? Okay, cool. Then we started cross-pollinating each other's paths. Then they said, you know what? Hey, maybe we should make kind of a business out of this, So we formulated Chew Entertainment. That was us together. And from that point on, so it was a natural progression of things that brought us doing business together rather than us trying to just, hey, let's do things together. It progressed naturally. And that's why we've been able to kind of keep it going, because neither one of us was ever felt like, it was something that was used as a crutch to support the marriage, right? When you hear people being, the husband manager, that's usually as a crutch to support the marriage. And then as that, it don't work. You see an example of that. In our case, each one of us came in fully, with full careers, and we brought each other a symbiotic kind of support system, and it worked from there.
So, this has been an amazing conversation, and I can't thank you enough. So as we wind down, 2 last questions for you. And one you've somewhat answered already, but I want to ask it because I know, once again, that we have a lot of young folks watching and they want to know. So for those young folks out there who want to become entrepreneurs, want to work independently, want to be self-sufficient from whatever walk of life they're in and whatever it is they want to do, what advice do you give them?
I'd say, listen, go for it, because especially in this environment, where you have a lot of independent, artists and people really, really finding their own way. Yeah, go for it, man. Go for it. Again, arm yourself with as much skills and information as you can. Don't be afraid, especially at a young age. You can go ahead and take that leap. Sometimes you got to fly and jump out without the parachute, and you have to fly and invent wings while you're flying, and learn how to do it. Flat faster, whatever you got to do. But yeah, go for it, man. Yeah.
Hey, and then last question. You've accomplished so much, right? It's hard to imagine that there's still something left for you to do, but I know that you'll say no, there's plenty more to do.
Oh, yeah.
So looking to the future, where do you go from here? What's next? What's the next mountain to climb for Ray Chew? Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you asked that, because I always put new things in front of me, and I enjoy new challenges, and like I said, the meal I had, I never complacent. The meal I had yesterday, that was yesterday's meal. It was a damn good meal, but that's yesterday. Today, I'm looking for a new meal. So I stay hungry, and I stay, somebody who's, pursuing to be as affluent in my next venture as I was, so whatever success I've had, that was yesterday. And today I have a new, purpose and intention. So some of the things, and I'll just speak about some of the goals I have. One is that we're going to continue growing our foundation together, power2inspire.org. And we are going to really continue to, and our mission is to change lives. That's our mission. Change young people's lives, give them opportunities to know what it is that coming from, educational system. Some of them have doctorate's degrees, masters, but it's hard to make that leap into the professional ranks. That's our mission, to help people getting into the professional ranks by mentoring and giving internships and opportunities, helping them connect the dots and that kind of stuff. That's a goal that Vivian and I share. Some of my personal goals are is that I will be producing and developing shows for TV under my own banner and I'm under my own creation. So not just as a music director, but as a creator of content.
Oh, beautiful.
And developing new artists and presenting that. I have a lot of work to do. I have no open days. I have to create an open day to go play golf or something, you know. So I try to mix it up. I like golf, you know, and I'm okay, you know. You know, good shot, bad shot, but I have fun. But just to have a golf day, I never put aside any goal. But I have to be like, hey, listen, you know, you can work yourself and you know, never do anything else. So I do have a multifaceted life. And those are some things I like to do. I can enjoy life and I like to continue doing what I'm doing.
Okay, so last question then. Any current projects you're working on that you want people to know about, that you want people to be supportive of? And how do we contact Ray Chu on social media?
Yeah, well, Ray Chu Live is my tag on Instagram. And my website, raychu.com, www.raychu.com. You can send me a note. I see them all. I get back to people as much as I can. Sometimes it'll take a couple of weeks, but I do try to answer all the, you know, letters and emails and stuff I get. I do like to help people as much as I can. But I also like to have, you know, we do have a process where we like to be able to screen people and have some discernment, so that I've had people. And I'll tell you a quick story. I had somebody that was posing as a relative and scamming people, you know, trying to say that he was, you know, and then he tried to, you know, manipulate some communication, you know. I was like, wow, what people will do, you know. Some guy down in North Carolina who had shared the same last name, you know. Anyway, so yes, I like to contact people. I like to be in contact with people. My goals now, like I said, I'm working on producing new TV elements and we're focusing on our Power to Inspire Foundation. But send me some notes. I'll check them out.
All right, Ray, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. I would just like to say I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I said, thank you. Thank you.
All right. No, you've been tremendous. This has been great. And just to give myself a quick plug, I'll ask people, if you haven't read it yet, to check out my book, Can't Touch This, Memoir of a Disillusioned Music Executive, and look out for my next book, which will be coming soon. Okay, Ray, thank you.
I got to read that book. Oh, man.
Oh yeah, I'll send you one. I'll send you one.
Okay, all right. I like that. Thank you.
Okay.
Great.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you both so much. Thank you, Ray, for just imbuing us in your experience and your knowledge. I was taking notes in the background. These will all be made public on the notes for our YouTube channel. Please be sure to catch up on our previous CUNY BMI dialogues that span the gamut from sports to poetry, and now adding another chapter onto the music. Mr. Edwards, thank you so much for guiding this conversation. Insightful. Sometimes you were reading my mind as to the questions that I wanted Ray to kind of speak on. So thank you all very much, and we'll see you next time.
Okay, thank you, Jorge.
Thank you. All right.